Okay, so we're going to start talking about creating a style sheet now. This is not something we've gone over in class yet, but this is going to be for next week's week 3 to be exact. So we got over some of the concepts of what styling is, style sheet. So we're going to create our own. So writing style comments. So comments can be done. I think it's the same way as JavaScript. I just get so used to the cheat sheet anymore, I kind of forget. But anyway, so this looks like how comments can be done. Do the /* if you write the comment, and it ends with a */. So our exercise is create a style sheet now, placing a comment with your name and the current date. So we're going to go to our editor and let's see. We should have, pretend if you don't have VS Code open, I'm going to go show you how you can actually open up the file directly from VS Code instead of finding it in your file explorer. So you open up VS Code. If you have anything in it that still tabs that are open, go ahead and close them out and close that out. And we are going to go to this Explorer. For me, it already has the folder that we'll be using, I believe. Yes, it's still open. So, but if yours is not, so I'm going to go ahead and close folder and pretend I have no folders that's open, no folder, no tabs, no nothing. So if you need to find the folder, go to File, Open Folder, and you need to make sure you're in the HTML, CSS 1 folder. We are in still 2, HTML2, tutorial, and that should be it. Select folder. You see all those files. Some of the ones that we've already made some changes and been working on, and some we're going to start working on now. So it says for the TSS styles text CSS, which is right here. I'm going to go ahead and open it. I'm going to minimize this and move that over so I can see what I'm doing. Get rid of that. So we got that open. So we're going to enter our name and date. So the comments section at the top of the file, enter your name. We already did that. Save the file. So we're going to save it as this. Control-C for copy. File. Save as. Make sure you're in the HTML CSS folder that you created. And you have the HTML02 and then the tutorial. I just Control-V to paste that and hit save. Okay, so we're going to say we already did that. We're going to open up the TSS Home HTML, and which is this. And we're going to link that other style sheet, so we can have multiple style sheets linked to. So we already have one linked right here, the layout. Now we have one just for the styles. So you can have multiple style sheets, to be specific on certain kind of conditions of your styling, whether it be styles like we're getting ready to do, or the one we did last, which was layouts. So you did the exact same thing, linked href equals TSS styles.css relationship equals style sheet, and close that tag. Now, as I mentioned before, the book uses this method for their closing outs. I don't use that /. It's up to you on what you want to use. Okay, we did that. And close the TSS home file, saving your changes. So define the character encoding. As with HTML files, it is a good idea in every CSS document to define the character encoding used in the file. So you accomplish this by using the char set rule. Where encoding defines the character encoding used in the file. Add the char set rule to the TSS styles CSS sheet to specify that the UTF-8 character set is used in CSS code. So we're in the TSS style CSS as indicated here. So I do control home. Make sure you have the FN light turned off. Control home. At char set UTF-8. Okay. Let's see, you got our comments with our names and stuff. Okay, moving on. Importing style sheets. So the char set rule is an example of a CSS add rule, and which is a rule used to send directives to the browser, indicating how the contents of the CSS file should be interpreted and parsed. Another add rule is import, used to import the contents of a style sheet file. So let's see. The import is used to combine style rules from several style sheets into a single file. For example, an online store might have one style sheet named Basic CSS containing all the basic styles used on a web page, and another style named Styles. Using multiple import rules in a CSS file has the same impact as adding multiple link elements to an HTML file. One advantage of the import rule is that it simplifies the HTML code by placing the decision about which style sheets to include and exclude in the CSS file rather than the HTML file. So just want to make a note of that there. So let's reinforce on that. An advantage of the import rule, which is, we'll do that not highlight. Why is it not highlighting? I don't know. So I just want to make a note right there. One advantage of the import rule is that it implies your HTML code by placing the decision about which style sheets to include and exclude in the CSS file rather than the HTML file. So just make sure you're aware of that. Working with color and CSS. Since the first part of your style sheet for a Try and Succeed sports website will focus on color. If you worked with graphic software, you probably made your color selections using a graphical interface where you can see your color options. Specifying color with CSS is somewhat less intuitive because CSS is text-based and requires colors to be defined in textual terms. With VS Code, you've seen how that little color picker pops up and you can see what it is. You can use layman's terms, black, white, or something more exotic like antique white or Arctic blue. Or you can use hex codes, or you can use Rgb factors. All three work, and I believe they should get into that here in this. So color names. You've already seen from previous code examples that you can set the color of a page using the color property, along with a color name such as red, blue, or black. CSS supports 147 color names, covering common names such as red, green, and yellow, to more exotic colors such as ivory, orange, crimson, khaki, and brown. Didn't know brown was an exotic color. Pro skills. Humans are born to respond to color. Studies have shown that infants as young as 2 months prefer bright colors with strong contrast. Your color choice can impact the way your website is received, so you want to choose a color scheme that is tailored to personality and interest. Um, this is something that we talk more about in like a second level or the second HTML class, what colors mean. But just be aware, like, the colors can have different kinds of representation. In the other class, we talk about how black and I think white, for example, for our Apple, and they have a pretty simplistic look. It's a pretty simplistic styling, and that's by design. Android has like a greenish screen on here. No, let's see. Blue is like LinkedIn. Red is, I can't think of a good example for red. Pink. So you can see how different colors have different kinds of meanings, representations to their user. So if your website is going to be used internationally, you need to be aware of how cultural differences can affect your audience's response to color. For instance, white, which is associated with innocence in Western cultures, is the color of mourning in China. So just be aware of those little facts. You remember us going on to Apple's website? Let's see if I can get it to work on here. Looks like it. And these are actually images where this talks about the new credit card and X phone. And you can see very subtly there's like a white, just like a different kind of white in between. That's where you need to click on to see the source code. If you click right here, it's going to go to that image. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, evidently it's a link, not an image. This is what I was trying to get. There's a difference between clicking over here. I was thinking it was going to take me to an image, but it's a new link. And clicking like right in that white space right there. And we can go to view page source, control home, which it already is. Oh, we got a lot of white space between lines 1 and 34 for whatever reason. But this is what I was wanting to get at. On line 89, you have all these different countries. So they talked about China. Let's do control F, see if we can find China real quick. No. Okay, let's do this one way. Oh, CZ. Oh. I have no idea what these countries are. I can't see an easy way to discern which one. Okay, let's go with VN. I have no idea what VN is. Vietnam, maybe? Oh, looks like it. It says it in the title. Yeah. Loading. I'm going to pause this one. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm not going to wait for this to finish loading, but it looks like the color scheme is still the same, and even it's in English, so I'm assuming there's a reason for that. But you can see how Apple is a good example of how they have various tabs, various links for specific for different countries. So I'm going to close this stuff out. And we'll go through. Yeah. Close that out. Okay. Okay, so just be aware of the colors. RGB color values. Because the palette of 147 color names is extremely limited for graphic design and color names, you can use other color kinds of values such as RGB and HSL. So RGB is based off red, green, blue, the primary colors, at different levels of intensity. You can see how we combine red and blue equals magenta, all three of them. I don't know if you remember that from grade school or not. I somewhat do. But that's how those primary colors can make complementary colors. So varying the intensity of the primary colors extends the palette to other colors. Orange, for example, is created from a high intensity of red and a moderate intensity of green and a complete absence of blue. So I'm going to go into the background of how all that stuff works. Just be aware that, get rid of this. Okay, there's RGB A. I was going to do RGB, RGB, RGBA, and hex, and then just the name. And we'll go over that a little bit more. The difference between the A and the non-A is opacity. Okay, so we use, in this example, RGB 255, 255.0. That means R is at a strength of 255, the G is at a strength of 255, and blue, B is at a strength of 0, or you can do that in hexadecimal. The expectation is for you to know what that stuff means, by memory. That's just a ridiculous thing to try to memorize. That's why you go to Google. And specifically, I like this one. W3 Schools we talked about. And somewhere up here, there's a color wheel that comes up sometimes. If not, just do a search for it. Or is it still waiting, still downloading? There we go. Color picker. I think that's what it was called. Okay, so here's a color picker. You can hover over or select a color, and it gives you what it's going to look like with black and white, and you can choose different lightness and darkness of it. And then you can see it gives you the X and the RGB and the HSL. I don't really mess with this one, HSL. And if I ever came into a situation where I did have to utilize it and learn it, just go to a website and figure out what the corresponding ones is. If you know RGB is 153, 153, 255, and you need to use HSL for some reason, then you can find that corresponding one right there. Let's see. Let's go over here. And if you're wanting to play with it, what's the example? I think it's 255 and 255 and 0. Is that supposed to be yellow? Is that supposed to be orange? Oh, it's yellow. Okay. So yellow. And the corresponding hex code is that. And the HSL is that. And you can customize it. You can start with yellow and say, hey, you want this to be just a tad bit more red. You can customize it for whatever you need. And if you're working with an organization or creating a style guide for an organization or for yourself, just make sure to note down the hex code or the RGB value or the HSL so you can use it easily in the future. Okay. So I'm not going to go into the details of HSL. Define and semi-opaque colors. So we're going to talk about opacity a little bit. So opacity defines how solid the color appears. So basically how see-through it is. So RGBA, red, blue, green, opacity. I don't know why opacity is represented by A. It just is. I would have thought O made more sense, but that's just me. So let's see, so I'll talk about it in here. Give me a second. I just want to get back in here. So let's talk about let's do a search to CSS to color opacity. Okay, this is one. So RGBA color values are an extension of RGB color values with an alpha channel, which is, I suppose, is why they come up with the A, which specifies the opacity for color. So you can see how the lower the opacity number, the lighter it is, the clearer it is. The higher the opacity number, the more solid it is. So let's do this, try it yourself. Okay, so we got red, green, blue. Looks like they all have an opacity level of 0.3, right? So we got background color RGBA 255 0.03 or 0.3 rather to be red. So this ID of P1 is red. P2 has a different RGBA of green. It's green. So you can see how that goes forward. So right now the opacity is pretty clear, right? It's pretty clear, or not as intense. Maybe that's a better way of saying it right now. Clear comes more into play with images and stuff. So it's not as intense is probably the best way to say that. But what if I made that 1.0 and then hit run? Okay, it's more intense, the color is. If I made that 0.0, I mean, hit that. There's no intensity, right? It's completely clear. It's still there, but it has no intensity whatsoever, so you can't see it. And then 0.1, 0.7, it heightens the intensity of it. So I want to skip that part of the book. Which was that? Setting text and background colors. So we played that with a little bit on the other exercises with the articles and stuff. Now you've studied how CSS works with colors, you can start applying the color to some elements. So I think that was an exercise. Yes. Okay. What file are we in now? Okay. I'll move that over. Close that. I'm assuming this should be in the TSS styles.css. So make sure you're in the TSS styles.css, not the TSS styles text.css. Make sure you're in the TSS styles.css. So add the following code within the HTML body style section. Okay, so you see how they added comments in here to tell us what to put what in what section. So go to HTML, Yeah, that's right. HTML. Background color HSL 27. 72%. 72%. Okay, body color RGB 91, 91, 91. Background color ivory. So I've got following rules within the heading style section. So we go to heading styles, H1, color white, background color RGB 222128 60. H2 color white, background color RGB 235177131. Okay. Let's see. Now I got that from here. Yeah, from here. So let's expand this. So I think this is what one of the students said was happening with hers. Huh. I don't know why it's doing that. Because it has the broken image, but it's not loading. So I'll pause this for a second. Okay, so I know one of you guys mentioned that some of your images, like if you're in the actual reading part of Mind tab here, like where we've been doing, and not necessarily in the full book, because we just can't do as much in it. You can't like mark it and make notes. But if you have like a broken image icon, and I'm assuming this is the alt text, I assume. Um, but if it's not working, like mine isn't, I have no idea why. But you can, if you right click on it and open image in new tab, like Chris Alvis suggested the other day, it does work. And you can actually, if you open up the full book and scroll through until you find it, it does show in here. My recommendation, just for ease and not having to deal with trying to navigate something like that, is right click and open the image in a new tab and just do it that way. I have no idea why this is a broken image. My apologies on that. I'm just gonna get rid of that book. And so you can go off of that. So what we're supposed to be doing? I have the following syntax rules, following style rules with the heading sections. So, okay, did we do that already? Yeah. Okay, what's it supposed to be? HTML. Okay, we did that. We've done this. Okay, moving on. Oh. Right click, open image in new tab. Open image in new tab. Get rid of some of these tabs. I think that was the old one. Okay. So it talks about, I haven't refreshed our page yet, but it looks like this is what it's supposed to look like. So let's try it and see if it worked. So save it. Notice we don't have the HTML page open, and that's fine. It's already linked to this. And the only thing we're making edits is to this CSS. So it's totally fine to not have the HTML page open. Okay, and it worked. So you can see we made some styling changes with like the orangish color, and whatever changes there were. So HTML, the background color, is that orangish color, which is why you see that on the margins on the right and left hand side. We have the body, which was this particular color here, the background color of ivory. That was the body. Yeah. Okay, I don't see that little gray color, but the RGB one, that might be the font. Yeah, that is the font. Okay, that's the font color. So all the fonts that's in this, with the exception of these hyperlinks, are that RGB 919191 color. Background color is ivory. The heading style, the color is the font. Background color is that orangish color. Same thing for H1 and H2. Well, they use a different RGB for that one. Did it work? I messed something up on that. Okay, let's go back what those instructions were. Oh, here. What did I do? Stop it. Background color, RGB 235177. So why did it not work? Okay, evidently extra space on there does mean something. Just as an FYI, if yours don't work, make sure you don't have a space between the B and the opening parentheses. Now let's try it. There it is. Okay, it'll work now. And those are the things that will drive you that crazy. Just little things like that. You just, but the more you have those kind of errors, the more you'll know what to look for, whether it's something that's case sensitive, or spacing where there shouldn't be, or what. Okay, moving on. I'm not going to go into the whole details of color design. Progressive enhancement. I'm not going to get into coloring details. My goal is to teach you how to do it. You can start looking more on the design things of graphic design and stuff like that. I want you to know how to do it. I feel like learning stuff like that right now is going to get us lost in the weeds. And if you want to read more about it, that's fine. I'm just not going to get into it. Okay, so that's all on creating a style sheet. So we created our own style sheet on this. So I'm going to stop this video and proceed to whatever I'm going to do next.